you do. So hey, my name is Jens, and I'm from the Oslo office. I recently joined Digio, and I'm really actually thrilled to do that because it means I'm allowed to actually work on this full time, which is something which was merely a hobby project during the Nokia times. So I find this really, really exciting, and I want to show off that to you today. Is this better? I don't think I can yell the whole time. I mean, I really wish we had a... There is no microphone. There is no speaker system. Why do you think I brought this? And honestly, I don't think it would help. So, we just have to be silent. So, okay, what are we going to talk about today? We are going to talk about these things. First, I'll just introduce the desktop components. I'm sure not everybody knows what it is, but I think you have a pretty good idea. I'm going to say a little bit about the project status, and we're going to do mostly coding. And this is live coding, so bear with me. I'm going to do mistakes. Please pay attention and help me out when I mess up. And this is all pre-release software, so I wouldn't be surprised if something crashes, just so that's known. And we're going to do a QA if we have time for it afterwards. So first of all, who saw my presentation last year? These 3 people. That means I don't have to take much care of you guys. There's going to be new stuff, but obviously it's quite similar. The big difference now is that we're based on Qt 5, so there has been a tremendous rewrite under the scenes, but it might look quite similar API-wise. So first of all, what are desktop components? It's primarily a set of controls. How many people here know QtQuick? Or use QtQuick? Okay, and how many people have never touched QtQuick? This is going to be interesting, because we're going to do mostly code in QtQuick today. But I think you'll understand it. So basically, right now, QtQuick is a set of primitives. We don't have any reusable controls. We don't have a styling mechanism. But it's still tremendously powerful. And I want to do something about that. So, I think we're going to introduce most of this in Qt 5.1. So there's nothing for 5.0. Just don't want to disappoint you guys. This is still work in progress. But as you will see from my presentation, it's already pretty good. We're going to do desktop functionality. Right now, QtQuick is very mobile-oriented, and I want to bridge that gap. We need support for things like layouts, we need tooltips, we need splitters, we need dialogues, we need all those enablers that you have in the Q widget world. And there's also the model view things. If you've ever used model views in QtQuick, you realize that they're very limited. You only have this thing called the list view. And for doing something like a Spotify application, you're going to need something more. You're going to need columns, you're going to need resizable things, you're going to need sorting, all these things that aren't really there. So all these things comprise what I call desktop components. It's not just about making the widgets. And speaking of that, I'm actually wondering a little bit about the name. Desktop components is a little bit too generic, and I would like to use the word widgets, but it seems to be practical that we have, talk about widgets separate from the QML widgets, because otherwise we just end up in a, big argument. So, would you prefer controls or UI components? Does anyone have any strong opinions on that? I guess nobody cares. Would you be angry if I called them controls? Somebody would be angry. That's actually true. Label is not a control, but I mean, we can't be that. Because the thing is, we could call them UI components still, but I'm not really a big fan of that. But I would like to be open for a discussion. I mean, we're going to have to sort this out sooner or later. It's irrelevant for this presentation, however. So what's the project status? There's still no evil master plan. We're not planning on removing widgets anytime soon. And this is purely working side by side with widgets, and I would like people to move to this because it's more fun, and you will realize how awesome it is after this presentation. But I'm not going to force anyone over. I mean, for widgets, we're doing lots of new stuff with Qt 5. We're improving accessibility. We're adding support for Retina on Mac, and we're adding new styles. But we're still maintaining the widgets and we're focusing on that. So I just want to emphasize that I'm not competing with widgets here. I'm happily maintaining widgets as well. But the nice thing is that we are cooperating now because I'm using the same underlying styling architecture for widgets. That's one of the goals for Qt 5.0 is that all the styles don't depend on widgets anymore. And that's primarily for this project. I target Qt 5.1. We don't have any hard promises or plans, but that's the intent. We're going to bundle it with 5.1. It might or might not come out as a standalone experimental add-on, but let's see. But that's the goal. And let's see what we can do with it. Any questions so far? Awesome. So what are we going to do? This is me Spot. I actually have that running on my phone. It's written by Johan Lopez, one of my colleagues, and I use it every day to play Spotify. Spotify is basically a music streaming service where you subscribe and you can select from a library of millions of songs. And I'm really addicted to this service. And the nice thing is that this was written in QtQuick on an N9, which means it's easily portable to BlackBerry or any other target device that has QtQuick on it. But the other nice thing is that this is a UI that's primarily designed for QtQuick. And although it has a C++ backend, as you would expect, the UI is entirely pluggable. And what I did for this presentation was to take the C++ part of it, make it into a module that I could import into QtQuick, and I'm basically going to rewrite the interface so we have a proper desktop application to show how that works. And that's roughly what I'm planning on doing for a presentation. This is like a typical Spotify client. I can actually show the official one if you haven't seen it. I'm sure some of you have. It recently came out in Germany. Or did it? Awesome. Congratulations. So this is basically the official Spotify client, and you can, yeah, let's just start some songs. You have like a playlist. You have here, you have the tracks view here, and I'm not sure if I can remove this sidebar. But and you can select songs, and it's supposed to start playing now if my sound is connected properly. There you go. Okay, so that's what we're going to aim at. We're going to have this little album window here, we're going to have a playlist here, and we're going to have a track view here, and a nice little toolbar on top, just to have an idea what we're going to start doing. So this is my QtQuick application at the moment. It's just an empty file. And actually, I had to remove some functionality because I wanted to emphasize the fact that I'm purely coding QtQuick here and relying on some plugins that I already have. And before I start, I want to show some of the underlying structure here. I think I have it in here somewhere. Let's see. It's quite annoying if I'm going to get that sound effect every time I press the wrong key. And now, of course, the resolution is too low, so I lost my volume indicator. Awesome. It's not part of my recent projects, and I, of course, moved everything around for this presentation. So I had this thing called libqt Spotify in here. I just want to give you a rough overview. I'm not going to go into this, but this is the regular C++ code that you probably already have. You might need to refactor your own code if you're going to try to split things into a backend like that. But I just want to show how I'm actually sharing the data with QtQuick. Basically, most of this interface is based around just passing object or queue lists of queue objects. I think I need to zoom in a little bit so you can read. Can you read that font? Awesome. So basically, we're just passing queue list of queue objects, and the queue objects have functions we just expose to QML. So that's how things work underneath. And this C++ code, this could be any current queue widget code you have. You just have to change the interfaces a little bit and how you're thinking. So just keep that in mind, and I will go back to the QSpot application. It's just an empty file right now. I want to show you the project folder to see that I'm not lying. It's on my desktop. I have this thing called QuickSpot. And it's this empty QML file, and I have some icons. That's all there is. This is my entire project. We're going to use those icons for the toolbar. So let's get started. What's the first thing? Oops. QtQuick 2.0. That's the new version. And we're going to need import Qt desktop 1.0. Not sure if that's going to be the final name or version. I'm actually thinking maybe QtQuick.controls, but these are subject to change. And we're going to need Qt Spotify 1.0 as Spotify. I'll tell you why a bit later. So the first thing we're going to need a main window. I basically call that application window. Looks like that. It's going to have a title. And we can set it to, for instance, Quick Spot, which is the name of my application. And we're going to give it a width of 600, a height of 400. I don't know how that will look, so let's just try it. There you go, that's how we create the top-level window in QtQuick. And keep in mind, this is just like a script I'm running. I'm not doing any C++ code in this application. All that C++ code is masked inside this Qt Spotify import I have. So okay, what's the first thing we will need? I want to get started on trying to make a playlist. And what I have for that, I have something called a table view. I'm going to do fill the screen, anchors.fill parent. Right now there is nothing in there, so I'm going to give it a fake model of, say, 50 tracks. And you can already see that it starts having something scrollable in there. And we're going to give it a header. I call that the table column. And the title of the column is playlist. There you go. And now I actually get, you can see it all the way to the left there. Yeah. So this is where we're going to put our tracks. So how do we do that? Well, I'm going to import my Spotify module. I already have done that up here. I need to log on. And to log on, I just do Spotify. Sure not to mess up, I need to actually give. The reason I imported this with a name is basically that I'm importing a single, because you can't create more than one Spotify session in my application. This is just a little bit technical. Property var Spotify. I want to assign that to the Spotify.Spotify instance. This is just a little bit of plumbing. And we're going to log in with my name and not really my password. So right now, I can run this application. It's going to try to log on to Spotify, and I pray that the Wi-Fi connection actually works. But we're not going to see anything, because we just have a fake model in here. I can show you how to create a real model, by the way. This is just a regular QML model, but any abstract item model you have in QWidgets would work here as well. I just want to show how you can actually connect these two things. So now I have created one item there, and you can create as many as you want. You can declare as many items as you want. So you can see that I'm just creating a table column. I say I want to present the role text, and I basically give these list element the role I want to present, which is text. And there I have 3 elements. But now, of course, I can already hook this up to Spotify because I imported this awesome Spotify library. So that means we can replace this dummy model with Spotify.playlists, I think it's called. And right now you can see it's getting something, but you can't really read it because it's unable to access those strings. And that's because the role name is wrong. It's supposed to be the name of the playlist. And there you go. I already have live data in my QtQuick application from Spotify. So those are my playlists. So what's the next thing we want to do? We want to create we want to be able to click on the playlists and actually do something. To do that, I'm going to create a splitter, and this is one of those elements that we have created for desktop in particular. It's a splitter row. A splitter row is something, sorry, I shouldn't do it around the table column, I should do it around the table view. A splitter row is something you can put elements in, and you get like a draggable splitter handle. And of course, I need to put 2 items in it for it to make sense. So I'm going to put 2 table views there. And keep in mind that those anchors might mess things up. So I want the splitter row to fill the parent. I want to say that the first table view should be 200 pixels wide, and I'm going to leave the last one to fill up the rest of the space. So there you go. There I have a splitter view and 2 tables. It's quite easy to hook these things together, and it's quite fun, I have to say. So, but we don't want playlists in the other view. How do we connect these 2 views? Well, we're going to create like a small helper variable here. Current playlist, which is currently empty. And I want, when I actually click on the first table view, which is the playlist view, on activated, which basically means when you double click, depends on the platform. I want the current playlist to be set to the current value, the current index of the model. And I want the model of the second view, I'll give that a name. Let's call that track view. And let's call the first one list view. I want this one to be, if there is a current playlist, show current playlist. Otherwise, just don't do anything, because otherwise you'll get a warning that it doesn't actually have a model set on it. That is exactly correct. Thanks. And there you go. I now double-click this, and you can see it changes. I obviously messed up something there, since I only get the name. But that's actually not really strange, because what I accessed, what I said was set it to the current playlist, which is actually just the playlist. What I want is the current playlist.tracks. There you go. So that's how I connect these two views together. And I actually hate these wide splitters. For some reason, actually Apple still uses these by default. But the nice thing is I have built styling into these components. So what if I want to change the splitter row? I can say that the handle width should be 1 pixel. You can also change it with delegates. If I have time, I'll present a little bit more on styling afterwards. But this is how it creates a 1 pixel splitter. And now it looks kind of ugly because I have frames around these windows. So let's remove the frame. And remove the frame here as well. So now it's looking a little bit slicker, a little bit more Mac-like, if you will. So what else do we want here? Any suggestions? Like a play button, thank you. Trying to engage the audience. So how do you think you create a toolbar in the application window? Well, you create a toolbar, and that's it. Now I have a toolbar. But we need to put something on that toolbar. And now I'm going to show off like how the layouts work, because QtQuick doesn't really have a built-in layout system. It has very simple rows and columns. But we needed to add a little bit to that to create a proper desktop application. So I can show the difference. If you create like a row and tool button, see, these names shouldn't really require much explanation. They're quite similar to what you're used to. I don't like. These are just placeholders for now. That's like V-tool buttons. But I need something slightly more advanced, because the row will not actually expand. If I want something to actually fill to the width of the whole thing, I'm going to create something called a row layout. And row layouts work a little bit different. You have to tell it to fill the parent. So right now, they're all distributed. But that's actually what I want, because I want to put a slider in this thing. So now these are all evenly distributed. But what if I want the slider to be expanding? Well, quite simply, you just say layout.horizontal size policy. And unfortunately, the creator doesn't really know about all my extensions yet, so the code complete isn't necessarily working. We assign that to layout.expanding. Syntax error at line 27. Yeah, I closed this bracket too much. There you go. So now you can actually see that we have these stretchable policies that you're used to from widget layouts. And what if I want some margins? Just use regular QtQuick. Have a little bit of space on the side there. So we might want a few more things in there. I want a little text label that gives us like the total time. I want a text label that gives the current time. Something like that. And I also want like a search field. It's called text field. Like the namings are a little bit of cherry picking from the existing components we have out there. They're a bit inspired by HTML5, so they're not necessarily a one-to-one map with widgets. In this case, we just couldn't use the words line edit and text edit because they were already used for different purposes in QtQuick. But I think text field is pretty fine. So there you go. That's my layout. Another thing that is pretty cool is, of course, you can do things like setting the minimum size of the window. So let's say we want to guarantee a minimum of 400 pixels. And you can use size policies in the layout itself. You can also do a layout.minimum size, for instance, on the text field to say that a text field should have a minimal width. Well, of course, if there isn't space, eventually they will start competing. I tend to... minimum, thank you. There you go. So now this just affects, you can see now this is prioritized over the splitter, and then if you give them impossible boundaries, of course it will start collapsing. But this makes it possible to create resizable layouts, which is something that QtQuick is not really strong at. I mean, it wasn't designed for that. So these are some pretty cool extensions. I was considering maybe moving some of the functionality in row layout into row, but I actually like the behavior now because, first of all, like we center widgets by default, so you don't have to do an anchor vertical center on every single item in a row, which is one of the more annoying things I find. So that's pretty cool. Any questions so far? No, I guess that means it's pretty obvious. So let's try to hook this play button up. What do we want to do here? We want to have an icon. And that's like icon source. And let's give it images. I think it's called backward.png, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it is. Or is it? Oh, it's called icons, probably. There you go. That's the perfect. So now I have a little icon. These were just the icons I prepared beforehand. Forward, and we can do a pause on this one. So now we have like nice little icons here. And to hook them up, we could do a little on clicked. We just do Spotify dot, I think it's play previews. You can actually get autocomplete on your own libraries. I just didn't actually update the files before deploying, and I changed the library name. So it's definitely possible, but I'm going to have to live without autocompletion for now. So bear with me if I don't remember exactly what the API looks like. And this third button, this play button, is going to be depending on if Spotify is playing. Then we do Spotify.pause, otherwise Spotify.resume. And this should be. So you can see how easy it is just to hook up the state to this internal state machine that I created in C++. But it of course depends that you actually make an interface that's friendly towards this way of development. So now I have these buttons, but of course they don't do anything because I haven't actually started the track. But that shouldn't be too hard. Let's just go down here and see what we do when we activate the track view. On activated, we're just going to say model current index dot play, because those tracks are playable Q objects. So if I go in here now, I click on, for instance, this one and press on this one. And then, in theory, if I turn my sound up again, and I can press pause, and I can press skip. So that's a pretty cool thing, isn't it? And already we have a pretty good looking client. So let's just see a little bit more how we can improve on this. Let's say I don't want alternate row color on this one. I want to have a background color. Let's say give it some sort of blue color, EEF. So you can see it's very easy to configure things exactly how you like them. And also, this resizing behavior we defined ourselves. We have size hints. You can ask the layout for the optimal size hints. How about the status bar? Let's do a status bar, because that's also pretty easy. Like we created the toolbar up here, so under the toolbar, I'm going to create a status bar. Status bar. And now I have a nice little status bar here, and I'm going to put a text label. Anchors, center in parent. And let's set the text to Spotify.current, I think it's current track. So now you can, that didn't work. I think it's current track.name maybe. Like, but you see how, working. See how easy it is to iterate on this. It's absolutely a blast to program with, and you immediately get the response. So okay, the slider. Let's put some logic into the slider. The most obvious thing is perhaps to connect the slider so that it keeps following when the song is playing. We can bind the value property of the slider to Spotify.current track position. And of course, the slider is by default between 0 and 1, so we need to give it a maximum value too. And that should be Spotify dot, I think it's like current track dot duration millisecond. And you should probably, every time we use, sorry, I can probably just use current track. And we need to check that there is a current track, and otherwise we should return a 0 there. So now I start playing. I don't think I got the maximum value right there. Like, do help me out. I mean, yeah, you're right. Cannot read property current track name of null, line 44. Okay. And then and the question mark as well. Where am I now? Well, what are you trying to tell me? There you go. Just there. It's working. Thank you. See, this is how you engage the audience. Just act all confused. It is kind of stressful to stand here, you know. I think these labels can be improved a little bit. I mean, let's see. I need to look at my little cheat sheet here. Text should here be current track. No, actually, let's solve this once and for all. Happy? See, now I can clean up my code. I don't like this Spotify instance all over. There we go. Is that working? Sweet. Oh, actually, I messed that up, didn't I? Awesome. Okay. But the slider, we need to react to the slider. So the problem is, like, right now we have bound the slider. And I want to react to that. You move it, you can skip the track. And then, obviously, you need to do something to break that loop. So we can do it like an on-pressed change. If the slider is not pressed, so like you toggle it and you release it, that's when you skip, because we have a binding that, like, yeah, we need to skip. Then we can do a Spotify.seek to value. The value refers, of course, to the slider's current value. So let's see how that works. Of course, we can keep polishing this forever, but you see how simple it is, right? It's pretty awesome. It's too simple. It's almost like I'm cheating. But I'm not. And yeah. So, but this is the thing, like, I've been doing this with widgets, and I really like widgets, but like after doing this, it gets addicting. Like, it's just so fun to play along, and you can see what you can do with like minimum effort. So, what else can we do? Yeah, I want to format this text label. Of course, this all depends on a little bit of preparation. I had to add convenience APIs on the C++ side to actually get these things. It's worth noting. Doesn't come for free. Yeah, actually, let's skip this for now. I want to do something cooler. Let's add a little image. We want that little album image like when we're playing tracks. So I'm going to have to split my splitter into two parts on the left column. I'm going to put an image at the bottom. So this table view, since I need to wrap this table view inside an item, I'll give the item a width of 200. I'm going to do a width to parent.width here. Let's see if that works. Yes. I'm going to put an image in here. I'm going to anchor it to the bottom, parent.bottom. I'm going to say that the width, I want the image to stretch depending on the size of the left sidebar. So I just say that the width of the image, the height of the image, is equal to the width, and the height, oh, let's not mess this up. The width is equal to parent.width, and the height is equal to width. So, and I need to also connect these two guys with some anchors. So I call this image, and I'm going to say that the list view anchors.bottom is connected to the image.top, and I'm going to connect this. So you can see that I'm getting this stretching behavior. I also need to do something with this other playlist. I'm going to say anchors.top is equal to parent.top, and yeah, we can do that here as well. Oops, not the line I was copying. So this is just fiddling around with the layout to get exactly what I want. And now I'm going to drop like an image in there. And like before, I already cheated a little bit and made sure that I had a function on the C++ side I could just call to get the current album art. Also, I want to set it asynchronous true, just because it's going to load it off the internet. So let's do source to image, Spotify.current, I think it's just album source. And start this. There you go. It's pretty darn easy, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. Actually, I'm a little bit bothered by the lack of a line on the left side here. There should be like a gray line there, so let's just add that with a rectangle. This is like maybe a little bit perfectionist width, parent.width, parent.top, and height should be 1. And the color, let's say dark gray. Just add a little polish there. And maybe we don't want to show this image. We could say that the height is depending on status dot. Does anyone remember how to check if an image is loaded? Come on, some of you have used QML. I think image.ready. Otherwise that, otherwise 0. And let's do a behavior on height. Number. Why are you laughing? Am I messing up? Fun to watch. So like I want to see there's no image there, and I start this. Zoom. It's just friggin' awesome. I want to speed that animation up a bit. It shouldn't be annoying. Like, try doing this with widgets. And also note that everything looks native on Mac OS. It's worth noting that I actually have this running on Windows too. Like, I didn't actually prepare this Spotify client, but I can run QML scene examples gallery in there. So there you go. That's like the native look and feel on Windows as well, which you basically get as part of get for free, just like with widgets. So what else can we show? I'm running out of things. Delegates and styles? Actually, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. It's fun, I didn't even expect to do all this stuff. I didn't actually finish this text, I could polish it just slightly more here, I guess. Spotify just format, I think it's format duration, if I'm not mistaken. Let me look at my little note list here. Spotify dot current, what was it? No, it's duration millisecond. It's just current track. There you go. I don't know. Okay, I messed up something. That's right. Current track. So I guess we just need to check the same thing. Current track, question mark. Otherwise, 0.0. Thank you. There you go. Actually, I swapped out those two things. I want to put this after the slider. And I want to do the same thing before the slider. Except there is going to be current track dot. Like we can just do, you can see it's slider value. I remember that one. It's all connected. There you go. So I have a fully working Spotify desktop client. How cool is that? Okay, and you might think that that's all. However, I was talking about styling. Yeah, did you have a question? Menu bars and that kind of stuff. Very good question. So how do you do a menu bar? How do you think you do a menu bar? Yes. Menu bar. And menu item. I think it's a menu. And we do a title. Is it text? I don't remember. File. And let's do another menu. Edit. See that? Actually, I mapped that to the wrong menu. But that's basically it. You get a native Mac menu. This is actually a little bit unfortunate because that's like the only widget dependency I have right now because I didn't want to rewrite QMenuBar and QMenu from scratch because then it wouldn't work on Ubuntu and like anything that hooks into it. So we need to actually make that a cleaner interface, but we can't do everything right now. It's going to come in stages. So that's how you do a menu bar. And it should also, like, it's actually a QML component if it's not on Mac. It's just a special case for Mac platform. Otherwise, it will just embed itself. So that's the menu bar. Other questions? Yeah. Why do you need that? Okay, let me just create some animations then, if you really want animations in list views. So, I mean, we were already playing with this awesome behavior on height thing. And we had this little track view. Let's just use one of these views we already have. I could create something like a delegate here, or like a row delegate. Rectangle, color, red. Height should be if current, like now the problem is like I don't remember my own API. Let's just see if, let's just try this first now, see if I have done it right. We need to set the height. There you go. So now I just have a custom delegate for this thing. The color red is terrible. I'll just keep it this white for now. And now we can do any sorts of crazy stuff in here. So I think current row index. Let me look into my source code. So that's actually a problem. I haven't managed to generate the documentation. So the documentation is pretty much one of the most missing features right now when it comes to actually using this. That's definitely going to be polished on, but it's getting there. I could need some help, by the way. If somebody's willing to participate, this project is accepting contributions. But yeah, I'm just ranting here, table view. This is one of the classes I have documented. So we have this item selected, row. This is my built-in row delegate. Okay, it's just item selected. So if the Oh, sorry, I changed my project behind the scenes there. So now you can see it actually changes when I move up and down because I select the item. So how would you do a number animation? Just do a behavior on height. Number animation. And you can move up and down. It's like, what do you mean animations? You can do anything with QML. Well, I can do that, but that's gonna take a little bit more preparation. I'm not a wizard. Yeah, don't tell anyone. QtQuick is that awesome. It's like, why do we need what? Oh, search! I forgot search. Yeah, thank you. Excellent. Yeah, I put the search field in there, and you thought I wasn't going to use it. I think it's called Spotify search. Oh yeah, I have a namespace. And I already have a search field, so I just need to give it a name. I'll call this search field. And in my little search field, I'm going to do a query. The query is actually search field dot text. And on results changed, I'm going to set the, you can probably guess it, I'm going to set the current playlist equal to tracks. Tracks is a result, a property of the Spotify search. So if I go in here, and thank you, somebody's paying attention, and I want to search for instance, I don't know, give me a name. The Bache mode. Of course, this is where like the Wi-Fi needs to work. Okay, can't read property. Don't let this be the only thing that doesn't work. This is funny, the last time I did this. Okay, moving on. We might revisit it later, but that would have been awesome. Anyway, so what else can we do? Yes, I wanted to show a little bit more on styling. Actually, I can show this widget gallery I created. I'm going to show the desktop components project. It's already open, and I changed to it. And I run this widget gallery, so you can see a kind of more complete picture of what we have available. One thing I mentioned is that we actually do support QStyle underneath, and we had to rewrite a lot of the styles in Qt 5 to remove all the widget dependencies we have in there. And that basically means that the styles you already have automatically work. So for instance, if I go into my project and I pass-style Windows, it's going to look terrible on Mac. But you get like the old Windows look and feel. So it's actually pretty cool. But the styling mechanism that I built is not actually based on widgets. I'm using a compatibility layer for QML and rendering into like a frame buffer, as you said. Like the animations are actually driven by the style and rendered into Pixmap because it has to interface with a native C API or whatever is on the underlying platform. So you can actually see that all those animations, oh, let me remove this horrendous style. I'm actually considering removing the Windows style in Qt 5. Is that something people would react strongly against? It is? Not on Windows, but on Mac and Linux. I'm not silly. I never understood why we had this on Mac. I mean, look at it. It's like, why would you deploy your app like that? If you do it. Oh, yeah. But I haven't polished it on Mac, so the color palette looks a bit off. But still, any style we have in here. Of course, I removed them so it's a bit more lightweight. We had like a bunch of really old crappy styles in Qt 4, and we're slimming things down so we don't have to. Yeah, CD motif. Like, what were we on? So, yeah. The widget example. No, the most problematic right one are the pop-ups, because I want them to show a native pop-up, and it's bugging a bit. It's interfacing with like the widgets. That's something we're working on right now. I would say that, I mean, the combo box it's working, and that's actually a native. You can actually drag the window. Yeah, it is a native pop-up. So if I open it down here, no, actually that's a bad example. Anyway, it pops outside of the window, so it has to do some reparenting and stuff. It's working, but as you can see, it could be a little bit glitchy. The same thing with the menus. Those are kind of the glitches I have. Aside from that, all of these are working as well as their QML equivalents. You can see like a nice little slider here. Yeah, what? Yeah. It's all working. We designed this with accessibility. In fact, I'm using accessibility in QStyle to replace some widget dependencies, because in widgets we're actually querying for like parent widgets and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. So if you compile without accessibility now in Qt, and I actually think we shouldn't support that, because quite frankly, accessibility should be mandatory in all distributions and everywhere. So if you compile that, you might actually have glitches in the style now, because the style depends on the accessibility roles being set. So instead of asking for if the parent is QToolbar, it's going to ask for the accessible role of the parent is toolbar. That's things we had to do in QStyle to enable this. Item view support, it's limited. I don't have tree view, but I have this table view, which does most of the use cases for tree view anyway. We have some range controls, even this freakish, oh, that actually has a binding issue. I'll look into that. But you can do cool QML effects like this. Like there's no point, but you can. I have custom styling. It's looking hideous because I was like hacking on this style last night before I went to bed. I might be able to show you some of that. How many minutes do we have left? Plenty. That's wow. But we could go into any depth here. Yeah. So, and basically there's there's like a scroll area. That's something that's pretty hard to implement in QtQuick. You have this little sidebar just to show that you can put widgets on anything, enable sliders, and you can see it's all like smoothly animated. These are, of course, actually connected to different properties. And I wasn't sure if I was going to do this, but just to prove that this is not actually widgets, I added this pimp me button during Lars's talk. And I tend to make things look pretty, but I made an exception just to prove a point. Oh no, don't tell me. Oh, what a disappointment. I'll show that to you afterwards. Anyway, it would have looked horrendous. I was just adding some particles in the background. Yeah. Yeah, but that's things that you implement on top of widgets. I mean, that's widget subclasses. It's not actually widgets. We have a very small widget library. I'm not going to port QLCD number, for instance. Like, why is that in Qt 5? That was only to keep Lars' promise. No other reason we kept it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Mm-hmm. These are just quick items. Yeah. Okay. What was the first one again? Yeah, you mentioned text rendering. Yeah. Yeah. The question was basically text rendering. It used to look pretty bad on Qt 4. We have fixed that in Qt 5. We have support for native text rendering, and it's actually quite simple. I can show how the text field is implemented. Sorry. We have this property called, oh, there we go. I commented it out there for a different reason, because it doesn't support text effects yet. It really does render, but this is the text input, and I set render type to text native rendering. That uses Cocoa to render the text. Same thing on Windows, you get proper clear type. And this is really cool and was absolutely necessary to do proper desktop support, because you can say a lot about the look and feel of apps, because that has changed tremendously. I mean, Windows apps don't look like Windows apps anymore. In fact, Windows apps tend to look like this. But what people could react to still is that the text doesn't look proper. Because on a browser, you do have native text rendering still. So that's what people do react to. But people actually like to pimp their interfaces like this. If you look at this, I was thinking a lot about the native look and feel side of things. And that's where I'm coming from. I used to care a lot, and I still do care a lot about the native look and feel. But what you need to enable are interfaces like this. You don't want to implement your own scroll bar from scratch every time, but you want to be able to create a scroll bar like that. So what I started doing was to build a styling system on top of that. 15 minutes. Thank you. Oh, actually, I skipped the other part of the question. I'm sorry. I only now realized. I got another question. Yeah, not supported. Yeah, the question is like, could you potentially put a Q widget inside here? Yes, there's many ways you can potentially do it. The question is like, I would rather do it the other way around. If you're porting an app, yes. That is also at the moment in Qt5 not working. This is something we're going to have for sure. We're going to have like a Q declarative view, a QtQuick view that you can embed as a Q widget. So you can put it anywhere. But the other way around, putting a Q widget inside here using something like we had in graphics view, the Q graphics proxy widget, actually you can do that. You can embed it. But we don't want to do that because it creates all sorts of crazy bugs with pop-up behavior and stuff that. Yeah.
We probably need to work with the scene graph if he wants to have a graph widget, for example.
Yeah, it was a pretty long question, so I can't repeat it. But what it was basically asking is like, how would you go about like integrating existing code into this? And I would just say, look at the Spotify example. That's why I showed it off. It shows how you can create an API that works with QtQuick by exposing properties that you can access directly in QtQuick. That's how I would go about doing it. But I mean, there is no rush to port everything QWidget to this. Like, you would do this with new applications. We're not going to port Qt Creator tomorrow because there's no point. I mean, Qt Creator works excellently the way it does. What we might do is put, like what we already did, is like the welcome screen fits nicely with the QtQuick. But just porting all of Creator just to prove a point, I don't see much point in that. Another question. Yes, but Johan Lopez, my coworker, did write that while he was employed at Nokia. So I mean, there might be some questions. I think actually it's already available as an LGPL library on Gitorius. So if you come at Bedford, we can just Google for it. It should be quite easy to find. But this library I had to modify it for my example, so I can't guarantee that. And there's different things. I mean, we might need to clear off things with Spotify before we can actually deliver exactly. Let's see. Okay, I wanted to show another thing because I was starting to talk a little bit about styling. So I want to show how we can actually do style things here. Because I just actually wrote most of the styling API over the weekend. Because the idea I want to do here is like anything you do anchors center in parent. When you create a widget, and I need to change my project again, you do get like a native looking button by default. Which is like implicitly we load this delegate, which is using QStyle to render. But what if you want to style it, or you want to create your own theme, what you can do, you can just set that the style of this button, and then you need to include something called QtDesktop.styles. You create a button style. And now it's no longer actually the native button, and that's kind of important. With style sheets, we try to have this weird hybrid where you change the color, and then sometimes it would fall back to use the native rendering, sometimes it didn't. And that worked in 50% of the cases. So I'd rather say that when you do style, you have the same style on all platforms, so that you have the same baseline when you're doing your own style. I think that makes more sense. And then if you really want a Mac button, you can just use an image. So you can say that the color, the background color of the button is red, and now you have a red button. And you can say that the foreground color, so this is sort of replacing style sheets in a way. The foreground color is blue, and that changes the text of the button. And what if you wanted to completely change the style of the button? You can do that as well, because there is something called a background delegate inside the button style, where you can put a rectangle, and you can say that the color of the rectangle is depending on if the control, in this case a button, is pressed, it's going to be blue, otherwise it's going to be yellow. And yeah, just give it some size ID. And you run that, and that's how we completely style it with pure QML. So I basically managed to merge these two universes. I wasn't quite sure how to do that. That's what I did over the weekend. I know some of us have discussed this before. That's basically my current idea. You can also change, you can also have a path which contains styles on your system, and you can change the style path so that the entire style changes. And because I did the Spotify client, I asked Jan, who's like also pixel perfectionist, and he did the MeSpot client. I asked him to help me out, and I was like, how close can you get to Spotify using desktop components? So we have this other little sweet project, which I'm definitely not going to share the sources on, because we had to copy some pixmaps from Spotify. However, it does prove a point. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Cutie Pie. And the nice thing about this, if you check the performance here, and you resize this, and you compare it with Spotify, it's super jerky. And we're at 60 FPS constantly. I'm going to put this up on so you can look at the demo stage later. I didn't want to like blow the surprise. So just come down to and stand and play with it if you want to, but that's basically it. So I'm going to put up my little final slide here. If you want to try it out, just check out that link. And yeah, questions? I didn't quite hear it. Comparison? No. Why? What do you mean? They're not really comparable. You don't think this is a comparison test against QWidget? I thought I just did it. The thing is, like, I'm not trying to do a one-to-one. Like, for instance, dock widgets. I'm not going to do dock widgets for this. I don't think it's worth the overhead. If we do the dock widget infrastructure, it probably fits better as like a standalone, maybe commercial module or something, because it's quite messy and very few applications use dock widgets these days. It's really only one application, and that's Visual Studio, and they're moving away from it. Same thing with like MDI support. Multiple document interfaces, they're dead. Just face it. I mean, there's no point in doing it for QtQuick. You can do it, it's quite simple, but I'm not going to take it apart. I want like the set of components to be fairly small, because you can see how incredibly easy it is to extend them. Instead of having like a million different button types, all you do is change the delegate, and you have a new button. Question?
How much of this is implemented in QML? How much is implemented in C++?
That's a very, the question is like how much of this is implemented in QML and how much in C++. I actually feel a lot more productive in doing QtQuick. So all of the logic for the components, for the controls, is implemented in QML. We have had a lot of enablers, but like a lot of features that we had that we need C++ for, like native text rendering and stuff that we have merged back into Qt5 to make it available to everything using QtQuick. I don't really have an estimate, but I can actually like show it to you. Almost everything is QtQuick. This is the logic for the text field. It's pure QtQuick. The only C++ you see here is when I load, I have two style delegates. I have the one that I just showed you, where you can customize it, which is written in pure QtQuick. And I have one that is written in, but of course QtQuick itself is written in C++. So I mean, it's kind of an artificial distinction. Yeah, exactly. No, I'm just saying, I mean, everything you see here, like item, is actually implemented in C++. We're just hiding the nasty bits. And what I'm doing to interface with my plugin is the style item, which is something which will probably be like a generic API for styling, where you create a style item and you give it an element type, edit, and you set this, these are basically style options I'm populating here, if you're familiar with like how QStyle works. So this is basically my interface, and style item itself is a pretty big implementation. It's not that big, it's like 1,000 lines of code, and this does all the interface to draw like the native look and feel. So it's not really a lot of C++. The question that has come up is, do I want to provide a C++ interface to these components? There's at least one guy that keeps ranting on the forums about this all the time. I'm personally a little bit torn between it, because if I do expose like a set of C++ functions on, for instance, button, and you extend that in QtQuick, you won't actually get that in C++. So I actually think it's better to keep these interfaces kind of separate. You only need that if you're basically very widget-oriented and you're not really used to the idea of working in QtQuick for building the UI. Some people really like to have factories in C++ and set things. But I think just adding maybe more convenience to the QtQuick C++ interfaces to make it easier to call functions on items and do these things is better than create an explicit C++ API on every single control. Because I would like to keep it this way. I'm mostly in QtQuick and it works great. So I don't see a reason to change that. Yeah. Question? We have a test framework for QtQuick, but I will honestly say there is not that many tests being written right now. It's still being developed, and we just started using CI for compile testing on the desktop branch. But basically, this is more a generic QtQuick. I mean, we have different talks about testing in QtQuick. But this is no different from, I mean, this is just QtQuick. There's nothing magical about these items. They're just QtQuick items. So any QtQuick testing framework will work. More questions? At the moment, this is something we're researching. QAction has widget dependencies like icon and stuff, which is a little bit hard to handle. And we haven't really, this is something we could discuss game over. Oh. Okay, that's it for me, guys.